The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff or management of Worldwide Digital Broadcasting Corporation.
Whether she's walking the red carpet or doing interviews, you'll find her with celebrities and all the latest news. She's here, she's there, she's everywhere, she's always on the go. So sit back, relax, and get ready. This is the Corey Taylor Talks Show.
Hello everybody, and welcome to Corey Taylor Talks, live from Las Vegas, the #1 teen talk show. Today I am beyond excited about my guest today. I think he's an incredible man. He's been through so much stuff, and I think it's awesome that he's opening up and he's getting all this word out here, and I think especially at this time it's so needed, and it's opening a whole portal and showing what's really going on in Hollywood, which is devastating, but it's so important to figure this out. So we have the one and only Nathan Forrest Winters on. So hi Nathan, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Corey?
I am great. Thank you so much for doing this.
I'm absolutely thrilled to do it.
Awesome. Well, like I said, I think you're incredible, and it's, even though it was years ago, it's a very tough thing to open up about this and stuff, but I think it's amazing that you are, and you should really be proud of yourself, because it's scary.
Well, it's something that I live with every day, but it's also something that I've been internally working on for 30 years, and the whole idea of raising awareness and stopping this kind of abuse at all levels has been something that's been heavy on my mind and on my heart for since this happened, but really in the last 20 years have I been devoting myself to healing and preparing to do this job and to go out publicly and raise awareness and hopefully change a lot of lives and make it safer for all children.
Absolutely. So last week we had Connor on, actually it's 2 weeks ago, we had Connor on, and he was a great guy, and we had a very in-depth conversation and everything, but I would love to get your side, because you're the one who actually lived through everything. So for some audience members who might just be tuning in or might not know your whole story, can you explain about what actually happened and what you're doing today?
Well, when I was 6 years old, I met Victor. Essentially, he was working at a daycare center in the Bay Area, East Bay Area of California. And a friend of my mother's, her daughter went to this daycare center that he worked at. And he was, at the time, was producing a short film of his own called Goblin's Gold, and needed somebody for making props for the goblin's head and things like that. And this friend of my mother's was like, well, I've got the perfect person, because my mom can pretty much make anything when it comes to artistic talent. My mom's just gifted. And so it really it kicked off that way, in the sense that he used my mom to make some props for him, and that's how he was introduced to me. And being as good as he was with children, working at a daycare center, and this independent filmmaker, there was a lot of allure, if you will, to him basically being friends with the family. And so over the course of a year, he spent grooming myself and my parents, essentially, to, make it easier, so he had easier access to me on a more regular basis. And that's eventually he turned into my babysitter. And over the course of a few years, the abuse really, it didn't start within the first year. It was still this grooming process. And then as time got on, the abuse got more and more intense. Around 10, I believe, he had written a script called Something in the Basement, which is to be another self-produced independent short. And I begged him to let me audition for the lead role. And at that point, the abuse had been going on for about 3 years. And I mean, really, he didn't want me to audition. He was afraid that I would be no good and he'd have to hurt my feelings. But he agreed. I talked him into it. So I did the audition, and out of like 19 or 20 other boys, I won the part. And so Something in the Basement was done. And again, the abuse is progressing at this point, and it was pretty full blown. Something in the Basement went to a film festival in San Francisco, California, and won first place. Well, on the panel of judges was Francis Ford Coppola, and he liked Victor's work. It won first place, and so they started negotiating a deal for Clown House. And so when he signed that deal with Coppola to do Clown House, essentially that movie was written with me in the lead role. So that's when all that happened. And then during the filming, my mother's suspicions that there was something going on just grew greater and greater and greater, to the point where right after we wrapped the shooting of Clown House, my mom finally got the truth out of me. And this is after, several months of her poking and prodding and trying to get me to, be honest with her. And finally I just broke. I couldn't lie to her anymore. And I was almost 12 years old at that point, and I knew for some time by then that what was going on was wrong. But again, Victor was a part of the family. He was in a place of love, and I admired him as a child, and the whole allure of making me a star in Hollywood and all of this was like very heavy on me. But essentially, my will to be honest with my mom won out, and I told my mom the truth. And within a few days, Victor was arrested, and that's really when it blew up, because of his involvement with Coppola. It was a national story, and people were just, all over it.
Yeah. No, I couldn't even imagine being in that type of situation. And I didn't even know he was a daycare worker and stuff, and that in itself is terrifying. And I had no idea about that part.
You're breaking up kind of bad. I can't hear you very well.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is this better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I was just saying, I had no idea he was actually even a daycare worker, and that blows my mind and is horrifying. I had no idea about that part, and that explains how... Throughout the entire relationship and time that I knew Victor, any and every job that he had that wasn't involved with making films was at some sort of daycare center or a boys and girls club at the YMCA. Oh my gosh.
Everywhere he worked was surrounded by children. He also babysat many other little boys while being my babysitter. And during the time that I knew him, he babysat more than one kid.
So, that kind of makes you wonder. Unfortunately, I would have to assume you probably weren't the only victim in this. Do you think that's true?
Well, yeah, truthfully, Corey, no other victims have ever come forward. And I say this, unfortunately, because I believe that by coming forward and finding your voice and calling out your victimizer, that's part of the transformation from victim to survivor, is being able to approach that demon and face it. So unfortunately, no other victims have come forward or found their voice yet. But again, that's part of my intention of doing all of this, is to set the stage and to let other victims know that it's okay, and to not be afraid, and to use your voice, and to stand up proud and hold your head high without any shame or fear, and make it clear to the world what was done to you and who did it. And that doesn't matter if they're in Hollywood or if they're a neighbor down the street. It's a huge thing to not be silenced anymore, to not allow them to silence you through their shame and the guilt that is ultimately becomes inherent. It's something that you take on that isn't yours.
Yeah.
And that's something I have to say to all victims and survivors out there, that this shame, this guilt, this pain, this fear, all of this does not belong to you. It belongs to the person that victimized you, and it's time to stand up and give it back.
Absolutely. Well, I think what's also was amazing is your family was supportive and stuff, because unfortunately, especially because he was a Hollywood director and had Francis Ford Coppola and stuff, horribly enough, some parents could even have figured that out and silenced their kids and stuff, because they're like, oh, well, if you want to make it and stuff. And kids, I mean, even adults, if they're sexually abused or anything, they're terrified. And of course you are. It's scary and you want to blame yourself, even though it's completely not your fault. But there's so much victim shaming now and stuff, and it's horrifying. So I think it was very important that you did come out, and you probably saved a lot of kids. You really did, because without you, obviously, a lot of victims, I'm sure there had to be a lot more, didn't come out and stuff, but you did, and I think it was incredible that your family did support you through the whole thing as well.
Well, absolutely. You know, again, this is something that I've been preparing for many, many years. You know, after his conviction, it was part of the settlement, I believe, that I go to therapy from 12 to 18. So 6 years of therapy we're talking about. Yeah. And that's been a huge, monumentous key element to my success as a survivor, and no longer being the victim, no longer holding my head, you know, down and being ashamed of this. Exactly. You know, it's really, if I could say something to anyone out there that is on the fence about coming forward, and it doesn't matter to whom they come forward to. I mean, this could be their therapist, it could be their wife or their husband, or, you know, a best friend, anyone. Get it off your chest, get it out of there, and start facing it and talking about it, because that's the only way to really bring awareness to this epidemic. Yeah. Because I mean, the numbers are staggering. The amount of victims that are out there, and children, every 8 minutes a child is sexually abused in this country. Oh, and I mean, that just is disgusting. Yeah. And so my main goal, the main reason that I would want to come forward and talk about this is, I put it like this, metaphorically, it's like this elephant has been in the room for so many years, and everyone has turned a blind eye and a deaf ear to this elephant. Well, I want to be the one to stand up, walk over to the elephant and say, okay, you had a nice run there, Mr. Elephant. Time to come out to the front of the room where everybody gets to look at you in the light, and we can start discussing a solution. Yeah. Because, you know, I'm not out there with the extremists that think they need to be castrated or to string them up or just kill them. I don't believe that's a solution. I think that kind of thinking lends to the problem, not to the solution. And really, my belief is that by bringing this out into the light and making it something that people can talk about without this reservation, without this fear and this sickness in their stomach, because it is sickening to think about a grown adult having sexual relations with a child. Okay, as a father, it's one of those thoughts that it's our internal instinct to push that thought as far away as possible. But we can't do that, because pushing it away is lending to the problem. Absolutely. The only solution is to bring it out into the light and discuss it as adults. I mean, it's our duty as adults, whether we're parents or not, it is our duty to protect the children. That's why for generations, you know, if a ship is sinking, it's women and children first. Yeah. You know, so, I mean, that lends to the idea that, you know, especially as a man, as a father, it's my duty to protect all innocent. Yeah. And the children, it doesn't get any more innocent than that. And so really, I just hope that this will give people an example of strength and courage that they too possess, and that they can find that in themselves to go out there and to start talking about it. Because the more that this is this taboo, feared subject, topic of discussion, the more they have this secret little place. You know, these predators out there have, like, it's like my soundbite really is the more light we shed on these darkest of crimes, the fewer shadows there will be to hide. Yeah. And that really says it all.
Absolutely. And, I do want to talk about that because, unfortunately, it's not just Victor. It is a huge problem. And even in Hollywood, it seems to be very prevalent there. And it's absolutely disgusting. Have you ever gotten in contact with Corey Feldman? Because I know he was very outspoken about everything that happened to him.
No, I've never, honestly, I've been in touch with very few. Most of my responses are from people out there that are not involved in Hollywood,
Gotcha.
which to a degree is unfortunate because I know that industry is saturated with this.
Yeah.
Stories like Corey Feldman. Now, my opinion on Corey Feldman is I think he's brave and he's strong. I think that because of his history, because of his past, because of his teen years, which let me just remind anybody that's curious out there that when you've been abused like this, when you've been introduced to such adult situations at such a young age, it really messes you up. And a lot of victims, and they turn to drugs, they turn to crime. I'm a firm believer that a lot of the population of our jails and prisons and treatment centers are saturated, and basically the majority of the people in there have suffered abuse at one point in their life or another. So in my opinion with Corey Feldman is the way that, we'll just say, those in Hollywood that want to keep this all hushed up in a secret and don't want the world to know the truth that their industry is saturated with predators and these monsters. The people that want to keep that quiet are definitely doing their best to discredit Corey Feldman and call him a drug addict or a junkie or that he's crazy. And the best way to discredit somebody is to do it that way. So that way when someone hears what you have to say or sees you for the first time, they go into it with these preconceived notions and ideas of who you are as a person. So if they're going into it looking at Corey Feldman's story or his interviews or his documentaries or his biography and saying, oh, well, this guy's just a junkie, drug addict, then that already has damaged him more than anything else could have.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the focus has been on with him, because he has a loud voice and he has the renown of his name to reach a lot of people. And so the people that want to keep this quiet have done their work and their homework to keep him from being this creditable advocate against child abuse in Hollywood.
Absolutely, and you're completely right, and that's what it is, and it's so it's horrifying that it is like that. But they're trying to keep it hush up and say like, oh, it's not really like that, and they're victim shaming, they're making them sound crazy and stuff, but it's not, and it's happening all the time.
They absolutely want to discredit anyone, and it's not as if. Say when the powder scandal hit, when Victor released his film Powder back in '96, I believe it was.
Yeah.
There was plenty. I would say that the ratio was about 60-40. 60% of the people out there were in support of what I was doing and advocating with me. 40% out there were telling people that I was doing this because I wanted fame. I was doing it because I wasn't acting. I was doing it for all the wrong reasons. I was doing it for money. Of course, that one was thrown in there too, which of course, none of that is true. I did not accept 1 cent. I did not accept one single deal. And I have continued to turn down every single deal since the attention that was brought on this, for that sole reason, because I am not going to be bought. I will not sell out victims. I will not be discredited in that way. So my campaign has been strictly to advocate against child sexual abuse and to raise awareness and educate people, because I truly believe education is prevention. But that doesn't mean that there's not an opposition out there. That doesn't mean that there's not people out there that want to tell people that this was a one-time touching incident between a grown man and a consenting adult, because that's the lie. That's the line of BS that they've been feeding the general population since Powder came out. That this was a one-time inappropriate touching incident between a grown man and a consenting adult, which of course couldn't be farther from the truth.
No.
I mean, this abuse lasted for 6 years. From 6 years old to 12 years old, Victor was in my life and abusing me.
Yeah. And that absolutely makes me sick to my stomach, and I don't know how it couldn't make anyone sick to their stomach. And I have to ask about Powder. Now, that was produced by Disney, correct?
Yeah, it was a subsidiary of Disney. So the money essentially came from the Walt Disney Corporation to fund Powder. And let me just remind people that movie's target audience was boys 12 to 17.
Yeah. And that right there, I think. Have you ever talked to Victor since everything that happened? Has he ever apologized? Has he ever come to you and stuff? Or have you not talked to him or have any connection with him since?
Well, there's been no contact whatsoever since his arrest. He's never come out publicly and apologized for any of his actions. In fact, he's quoted as saying in one interview a few years back that basically, and this isn't verbatim, but basically his quote was saying that, maybe one day he'll get to actually enjoy his career if I ever get sick of it, if I ever get sick of talking about it.
Oh my gosh. That's, wow. And I wow, that's just horrible. That's just horrible. And you seen, I'm sure you've seen about Jeepers Creepers 3 and everything. Were you happy about the boycott and everything, or how did you feel about that? Or it really didn't make up for anything, but were you happy that at least people were paying attention to what was going on finally?
I'm sorry, say the last part again. Happy about what?
That people were like finally paying attention to what was going on and everything, and protesting it and getting behind you essentially, and saying that this is wrong.
I personally, I'm not necessarily all about the attention that I get from this. Again, this is me utilizing any opportunity or attention that it's gotten because of it being this dark side of Hollywood scandal. And so I've never sought out any attention. I've never gone to any kind of reporters or news organization or director or anyone else and said, hey, look, I want to go talk about this publicly. It's always been people coming to me. Like with Connor, he came to me about 4 months ago. It was like midsummer, early summer. He came to me, a friend requested me on Facebook, and he just kind of, asked who I was, said he'd been a fan of Victor's work, but for the last several years has had this like conflict within him about whether or not he should like Victor's films because of what the controversy surrounding his career. And, had noticed that I had little to no presence online, that I think at that time I had done like one online interview, on Facebook with a guy named Mike Wilkerson. And, again, Mike approached me and said, Jeepers Creepers 3 is in production. Yeah. Do you want to come on my show and do an interview about it and talk about it? And so, again, it's nothing that I've sought out. I'm just simply utilizing what opportunity I have to reach as many people and educate as many people and raise as much awareness about this as I possibly can with my allotted time. And so, essentially, the documentary, I'll talk about that for a minute. The documentary is really because people out there are still fighting for me. The way that Connor kind of worded it to me is they had this image or this idea of me as this 12-year-old little boy that was abused by this grown man who is a horror film writer and director. And they're out there fighting for me. And the thing is that they're fighting kind of for this phantom, this person that is existing, but yet is a totally different person than what the image they have in their head of me. Mm-hmm. And that it's time to come out and show people who I am and where I stand today and my advocacy towards the prevention of sexual child abuse, and to really have the opportunity to tell my side of the story, because so far the majority of people out there have only heard what Victor's PR people and what the people that are involved in his films have to say in their press releases when this topic is brought up in interviews or press releases. And so that's really what drew me to Connor, was how genuine he was, and how his approach was simply wanting to help me tell my side of the story for all the people out there that are still hungry for it.
Yeah.
You know, and I believe after 30 years, because it's astounding. I mean, I'm in awe that people are still so hungry for my side of the story after 30 years. You know, and I'm blown away by the amount of support. I'm just like so grateful for all of it. And, you know, I think that people are still hungry for it because they're tired of the BS that they're being force fed. They're tired of being lied to. And, you know, me personally, as a human being, I am a truth seeker. And so I feel it's my duty to present the truth when I have it. And if I can save children, then that makes this all worthwhile for me. If I can help any child from being abused, or help any child or adult that has been victimized to find their voice at the end of the day, then I feel like I've done my job.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what I thought was so amazing about this documentary. Is it really it brings to light the truth behind it and stuff, and it is your story, and it is what you've gone through. And I really believe it will help a lot of people out there. And I think I really think it's very important because it's such a huge problem, and it is. We don't want to talk about it because it's disgusting. You don't even want to think about it, but that just makes the problem even worse and worse because people are ignoring it, and people don't want to believe that it's really happening. But it is. It's happening all over, not just Hollywood, even though it is very much in Hollywood, but it's everywhere. And people are just turning their eyes to it, away from it. But you are bringing it out, and I think that's very important. And you're telling your story,
right?
And you are a survivor.
And I, you know, that's really it's brilliant. You know, in the sense that through my strength, it is empowering because there is strength in numbers, and the more victims that become survivors and unite and start working together to bring this out into the light, the easier it will be for people that are still, let's say, on the fence about it and still, you know, allowing their fear to keep them from healing. And, you know, so it's just, again, it's amazing and how much support is out there. It's just, it's seriously, it's staggering. And I'm so grateful, you know, in like doing your show, Corey. It's like, I couldn't be happier to be a part of this, because I do believe that this is something that if we can really get the momentum up on this and we can keep people excited about what we're doing as far as this documentary and the advocacy. And, you know, I want to kick off a speaking tour here early spring next year and go coast to coast and do lectures and raise awareness and educate people, and start getting people in every town that I go to and speak at, give them avenues and directions that they can go for help if they need help. And for people, you know, seeking out, you know, people that do free therapy for victims, things like that, you know, that if we can really get the momentum going on this, I really think that, you know, we can blow the roof off of it and make a huge change for the better in our society and in our world, you know, and especially here at home in our country.
Absolutely. And, you know, that was one thing I was going to ask you. And first of all, I think doing a tour would be amazing. And I really hope you come to Vegas because that'll be awesome. That just sounds like a great plan. But I have to ask, what do you have for advice for victims and survivors that have gone through this and maybe are too scared to come out about it? What is some of your advice for people that have been victims of this?
My advice would definitely be to just find the courage within themselves, however they need to seek it out and find it, but to find someone, at least one person they can tell, someone that they can trust enough. And if no one is available, then, you know, perhaps it's seeking someone like through hotlines, or, you know, like you can, like shelters, or, you know, because not everyone has access to a computer. Not everyone has access to, you know, find and seek out help. But I'm hoping that they at least have one person that they can go to and get it out and start talking about it. And through that one person, eventually start finding the strength to talk about it more to someone else to start seeking out the help and asking the right people. If like if it's a child and they're in school, go to your counselor. Go to a teacher that you have a good relationship with. Anybody that can help you find the help that you need in order to really address this, face those demons down, and start standing proud as a survivor. And that's really, the best advice I could give is to bring it to the light.
Definitely. And, I do want to bring up the fact of how you said earlier there's power in numbers and stuff. And I think one fact would be even Harvey Weinstein recently, which was horrifying to find out about this. But all those women that he sexually assaulted and abused and everything, they all came out and stuff. And people are finally paying attention to it, because one person would come out here or there, and unfortunately, no one was paying attention to them, or they were just writing them off, like you said, like, oh, they're just crazy, or they're just trying to get attention. But then finally, all these people started really coming together and stuff, and it made a huge change. And he's basically blacklisted from Hollywood now, and which is great. And he's finally having to own up to everything. But like you said, there is really power in numbers. So I think you are starting a whole revolution, basically, and I'm hoping it will really bring a whole new change to Hollywood and everywhere across the world. Yeah,
that's really out of anything I could wish or hope for is that, and because I know about the Me Too thing, right, with women that have been raped or abused, and I know that recently a man went on there and said Me Too, and he was kind of ripped a new one. And, as much as I can understand women wanting to own this for themselves and to separate it, I don't believe that division is really part of the solution either.
Right.
I think that abuse is abuse, regardless if you're a male or a female, or if you were abused by a male or female, or you're a child being abused, or you're an adult being abused. Abuse is abuse, and we as victims and survivors need to really band together. And it doesn't matter, there doesn't need to be any division, whether it's child abuse or whether it's a rape victim or it's a woman that's being abused by her husband. Yeah. I believe that it's all in the same, and that the more we stand together and stand proud and strong, the less chance these victimizers will have to continue their abuse. Absolutely. And the more that we call them out, I mean, like I said, the more light we shed on this, the fewer shadows there will be for them to hide.
Yeah. And
that's really what it comes down to, is just shedding the light and making people aware and being strong and not allowing, it's like someone who's being physically abused. When you stand up to that abuser and you say, look, you can hit me all you want, I'm not going to stand down, and I'm not going to, cringe and cower. When you're empowered like that, it makes them less apt to continue abusing you. It's like being bullied at school. I'm sure we've all had our experiences with being bullied or being a bully even, because, that part of it is not easy to deal with either. Obviously, if somebody's bullying somebody at school, there's something deeply rooted, something deeper than just they're a bully. And these are the kinds of things that I really want to put emphasis and focus on, is the root. Why is this person being abusive? That's where I believe the solution lies, is finding the root of the abuse.
Right. And I did want to bring that up too, is I think what also is really cool is that you are a guy that has gone through this, and unfortunately, I agree with you. A lot of people say, oh, a guy couldn't be sexually abused, a guy couldn't be sexually assaulted, and they really do. They write it off very quickly, but that is not the case at all. And a lot of young boys, grown men, they're being sexually abused and assaulted and raped and everything, and it's horrifying, and people aren't paying attention to it. So I think that's also great that you are coming forward with this, and you aren't ashamed of it, because a lot of people do. They write off men completely, but that's not the case at all. And I think that's very important. So, And I think we're going to take a quick commercial break, but we'll come back and then we'll be talking more about everything and where people can find this documentary and stuff, because I am super excited about it and I cannot wait, and I think it's going to bring a big change here. So we'll be right back with Nathan, so stick around.
All right.
Retrospects is a purveyor, if you will, of historical eyewear. Retrospects is located on the second floor, right across from the Chandelier Bar. So when you look at our store from the outside, it looks like there isn't much going on in here. And then you open the drawers. We actually carry authentic pieces from the late 1890s to the 1990s. We have almost 3,000 pieces in here. It's like a treasure trove reveal. We do have a collection of new glasses that we have reproduced ourselves. It's called the Cuthbert and Chen collection. The safe is our jewel. It's our baby. We love it. It's from 1903. It weighs as much as a car. It's solid steel. We use the safe to hold our most precious pieces, our museum collection, if you will. People come in to find glasses that are not something they're going to find everywhere else. Not something all their friends are wearing, and something that they can tell that story. We sell stories as much as we sell glasses. We have pieces that we can associate with very famous people from history, movies, special events that happened in the past. And some of the favorites are the Ray-Ban shooter that Johnny Depp wore in Fear and Loathing of Las Vegas, the beautiful frame France Parisian plastic aviator worn by Bruce Lee in Enter the Dragon. Retrospects is not just about glasses. It's about the experience. It's about how these glasses make you feel. We are a full-service optical shop, somewhere where guests can come to get repairs, restoration, can put their prescription in, can get them a quick pair of sunglasses for the pool, and can give them a really great, just fun experience.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Corey Taylor Talks, live from Las Vegas, the #1 teen talk show. Once again, we have Nathan Forrest Winters on, and so Nathan, we're getting a lot of questions in and everything, so I want to ask you a couple of them. First off, someone wrote in about Francis Ford Coppola, and they were saying, did he ever reach out to you after all this? Has he ever spoken out about it, or he just kind of ignored it with Clownhouse?
No. And in fact, Coppola has continued to produce Victor's films.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's interesting. And then people want to say, how did they actually catch Victor, and what type of sentencing did he get?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
How did they actually catch Victor, and what type of sentencing did he get, and did you agree with it?
Essentially, I told my mother the truth. After that, she called the Concord Police Department, and he was arrested. It was a sting operation, so he was caught completely unaware, and tons of evidence was recovered, including several VHS tapes of him engaging in sexual acts with me. I mean, he was caught red-handed. He admitted to a bunch of it, openly admitted to the police when he was questioned, and essentially we believe he got money behind him because Coppola filed a $5 million lawsuit for some breach of contract that had to do with the contract for Clownhouse against me and my family.
Oh my gosh.
And Victor's lawyers basically, I mean, without talking too much with that, I mean, this is all legal record. People can go and see, because he is a registered sex offender, so they can go and look at the 5 charges and 5 counts that he was convicted of. and he was convicted of 5 counts of child molestation and sentenced to 3 years, of which he served anywhere from 15 to 18 months in a treatment center, I believe.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So essentially he was sentenced 3 years for a crime that took him 6 years to commit.
Yeah. Wow. And exactly, he probably didn't even carry out the whole sentence. And on top of it, it's a life sentence for you. And even though you have overcome it and stuff, you always have to live with that. And I that sounds like he got off very, very easy, and it's disgusting.
Definitely. I mean, it's something that I live with every day. But again, I have spent the majority of my life since his conviction and since all this happened, really focusing on healing and learning how to stand proud as a survivor. And, here's a little story. When I was 12 years old and he was sentenced, I did write Victor a letter. Now, this is something that I didn't necessarily even remember until Powder came out, and I had to go to my attorney that handled my case, and ask for all the records and anything he had on that case, that it be handed over to me. And within those boxes that he gave me was this letter that I had written to Victor when I was 12, that basically I told him that if ever in the future I heard about him having an opportunity to do this to another little boy, I would be there to stop him every time. And that's a promise that I intend to keep to both Victor and myself, that it doesn't matter how much time goes by. If I ever hear about him having an opportunity to do this to another child, I will be there to stop him and to blow the whistle.
Definitely. And so now let's talk about the documentary, because we talked a little bit about it earlier, but I think it's going to be incredible. So what's it actually titled? What is it about? When can we expect it to come out? Why don't you talk all about it?
It's titled Pure Eternus, the Babysitter. And we've been picked up by Fear Films as a distributor, so we're really excited about that. And it's essentially the story of, it's my half of the story. Victor's gone on to allude to his part of the story and his involvement as little as he possibly could. And this is going to be the raw story of what really happened from the eyes of the victim, from the eyes of the survivor, and my journey from victim to survivor. So this is going to be a very raw story, and Connor has just been excellent. Him and I are currently in production. We're shooting here in his hometown, and everything's just going really, really well, really smooth. And it's been a process, but the amount of support out there and people willing to get on board and help us in any way they possibly can has been staggering. We're both just so excited about it. So.
Yeah, no, it sounds awesome. And like I said, I really think it will help a lot of people out there. So it sounds like a very important film, and I'm very happy that it's getting out there. Definitely.
And, as hard as it's been for me to relive these memories and to drudge them up, because in a lot of ways it's been this process. The first few days were really rough, but as it's gone on, Connor has been brilliant in the way that he's kind of essentially coaxing and pulling these memories out of me. And I'm really impressed with the way he's shooting it, and it's going to be something that people haven't seen before. It really is.
Yeah, well, when we talked to Connor 2 weeks ago, he really sounded amazing, and he was very passionate about it, and I think that's a great thing, and I'm very happy.
He knows his stuff, and I've been telling him since we agreed to do this project together that he is a badass, and I still stand by that firmly. He is badass.
Oh yeah, I completely agree. And also I want to talk about your tour now, that you said you want to do. How can people make sure this happens, and how can they reach out and get you to come to where they are and stuff? Because I think that's going to be very also a huge step in the right direction with everything.
Definitely. I'm really excited about it. Since we've been in production of the documentary, it's kind of taken a back seat, but that's okay because this is really something that needs to be focused on now, is getting this documentary done. But the speaking tour is something that I've been wanting to do, and I believe that I have a very powerful voice. And so essentially I have a fan page on Facebook, which is, just Nathan Forrest Winters, and it's set up to where, you can go and you can hit the booking button and you can send an offer, or a city if you have a venue that you want me to come speak in next year. And I have people helping me deal with all that because I'm still joining the 21st century when it comes to networking and doing things online like that. I'm still trying to figure all that out. So I do have people helping me answer those people out there that are interested in having me come speak in their town. And I'm just super excited about it because, again, this is something that I want it to be different. I don't want it to be some boring lecture. I don't want it to be something scary that parents or children are afraid to come to. I want it to be kid-friendly. I want it essentially to be kind of like a rock show, where people show up and they actually have a good time. It's like turning a negative into a positive. This is a very negative and dark subject, but I want to make it as light as possible. Because that's the best way for people to receive the information is, again, when they feel comfortable. And that's what I'm looking for in my tour. And when I speak is to shed light, not focus on how dark it is.
Yeah.
To give people hope, to give them that inspiration that things are okay and they can be okay and you can heal from this. I'm living proof of it. I'm walking proof of it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, and I think it's a very important thing, and I think it'll help a lot of families out there, and kids, adults, everyone. I think it's going to be very important, and I think that's also a very unique idea to make it into a positive thing, and very important one because that's a problem. People are so afraid to talk about it because it's horrible, and you don't want to think about it. So I think that's a really cool concept of making it more fun, and so people.
If I can give myself a pat on the back, I'm definitely I'm excited about that fresh look on this because again, the more that people are willing to open up and speak about this openly and talk about it in a way that where they feel proud and not ashamed. Yeah. And if I can show them by example that that's possible to get to that point, I think it's going to make all the difference in the world. And that, the fact that I'm not going to go up there in some black suit and have this be this glum, dark discussion about this, but to go up there and have there be lights and, like I said, essentially turn it into kind of like a rock show where, and eventually, this is just me daydreaming about it because I have lots of visions and ideas that, I would like to see come to fruition and become a reality. But really, climbing walls, like rock climbing walls and things that you would see at a discovery day for kids or, make this a place that's totally kid friendly where kids can come and then have, these tables set up with pamphlets and support groups and free therapy and, hotlines for people that are being abused and have somewhere to direct these people right then and there if they're suffering abuse, if they need help. There's someone right there on the spot ready to put them in the right direction. And I think that taking that kind of approach is really going to be what's so eye-opening to so many. Yeah. Is taking a totally different approach. And so, again, pat myself on the back a little bit for wanting to look at it through those kind of eyes. So, again, I'm super, super excited about it.
Oh, absolutely, and you should definitely pat yourself on the back. That's a very cool thing, and it will help a lot of people out there. And I really hope you come to Vegas too. I'd love to help you get out here and have you on my show in person and stuff, and really get the word out there.
Well, definitely, yes, awesome. Definitely, we'll be in touch about that for sure, Corey. And I definitely, would like at some point in the future for Connor and I to be able to come on together and talk about the project that we're working on together and kind of relay and express our excitement about that together.
No, that sounds awesome, and both of you are amazing guys, and you're doing an amazing thing, and I applaud you because I can't even imagine going through that situation and coming out so strong and just willing to help people because it takes a lot of guts and courage, and I think that's awesome. So you should be very proud of yourself, and also kudos to Connor for helping you get this story out there for sure.
Well, and again, it's the attention that you're giving us makes a huge difference. I'm sure that this show is going to reach a lot of people and help a lot of people. And, I commend you for having the courage to approach this subject, because not every reporter, not everyone, there's a lot of people out there that would be more concerned with their career and the state of it than they would be concerned with helping others. And so I commend you for approaching this, especially at such a young age. I really commend you at your strength and your courage to take this on and to make people aware of it through your audience. And so, my hat's off to you as well, Corey.
Well, thank you so much, and that really means a lot to me. And once again, where can people find you, contact you, get ready for the documentary, follow Connor? Where can people get all that information?
I lost you during that last. I couldn't hear what you said. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. I just said, where can people find you and contact you and follow the documentary and get ready for it, and Connor and everything? Where can people get all this information?
Well, right now we have a GoFundMe page.
Okay.
That is GoFundMe.com/we_R_their_voice. And that's really what's been keeping me afloat, is people supporting and donating. That's what's got me out here to do this film, and what's gotten me to the point where I am. So that's really an important one, as well as Nathan Forrest Winters on Facebook. I have a fan page that people can reach me at. Or again, there is email, which is, again, it's we_R_their_voice at hotmail.com.
Okay.
And through my fan page, you can also, like I said, there's a booking button for any kind of projects or upcoming events that people might be interested in having me speak. And then there is also a separate page, which is Pure Eternus, the babysitter, and that's the documentary's fan page on Facebook as well.
Awesome. Well, once again, thank you so much, Nathan. It was truly an honor to have you on. And
It's been my pleasure.
I can't wait to have you and Connor in person. That'll be great.
That would be awesome. And we'll definitely get together again here soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nathan. Have a great night.
My pleasure. You too. Thanks, Corey.
Bye. Thank you guys so much for watching. Once again, please go check out everything. Go donate to their GoFundMe page. Even if it's $1, it can make all the difference, and it really does help. And if nothing else, share it, because it's, like I said, it's going to be a very important film, and I think it'll change a lot of lives. So thank you guys so much for watching, and remember, never give up, always believe, and you'll achieve. Thank you, and God bless.